This is Robert with Pioneer Smokehouses, and today we're going to do some basic ribs in the Cuisinart 18-inch vertical charcoal smoker. So to start with, I went ahead and I already lit a charcoal chimney with the minimum amount of charcoal. It's sitting back here getting ready, and it probably has another 5 minutes. So let's go ahead and work on loading this. Now, somebody asked me about throwing in chunks of wood, and what I like to do is I like to kind of mix them in with my load. So first, let's go ahead and set this aside. And this is ready to go. It has the empty water pan in it, sitting in the bottom as we would normally do. And then this is from our last burn, and I wanted to show you this before I dumped it. This is all of the ashes right here, and I'm going to go ahead and dump that in the fire pit really quick. I'll be right back. So I tend not to overthink this too much, but if you wanted to, when it's completely cool, you could just brush it out with any heavy brush. I wouldn't use anything with a like wire brush or anything, because it'll scrape off the coating. Put that back in there, and then we'll put the ring back in. Now I want to show you a little trick that I like to use for burning around in a circle. First, I like to set this down in the bottom. This is just an empty can from Olives, and leave it whole. Don't cut out the bottom. If you do cut out the bottom, you'll get a direct airflow right through the bottom, and we're not trying to get that. What we want to get is we want to get the air to come around and cook around with us. Then I'm going to take and put some rocks in here that is kind of going to be like the starting line. Now, it's best if those rocks have been tempered, so either heat them up in your grill a little bit on low just to make sure for a couple hours so there's no air pockets in them that could explode. Or you could do it in the vertical smoker itself on one of the times when you're not actually cooking, but you just want to get a low heat on them for a long period of time to make sure that they don't explode during a regular cook. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to lay in some wood chunks. Now, a couple of people commented on one of the videos that we could just throw wood in on the top, and of course you could do that, but I like it to burn through in kind of a timed manner. So I'll throw these in here like this, and then I'll just put a couple of these in here just like that. You can put more in if you want more in there. Remember to make sure that they don't touch each other. If they do touch each other or close enough, they will actually act like a fuse, and once one starts catching on fire, the next one will catch on fire, and so on, and it'll light your whole thing on fire, and it'll defeat the purpose of getting a low and slow smoke from them. So now we have the charcoal here, and this is just a standard Kingsford. You use what you like the best. My favorite was the Weber charcoal briquettes, but I can't find them, and it appears that they don't make them anymore. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set a couple of pieces up here next to the rocks, and I just want to make sure that they're going to hold in place, so that way I can dump a bunch in here. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut for a second while I load the charcoal in here. So now that we have the amount of charcoal that I want to be loaded in here, I'm going to explain this to you a little bit. This is the starting point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the lit charcoal right here, and then we want to get it to burn around in what would be similar to a minion method. Or it's kind of almost like a hybrid steak method, but there's a little bit more charcoal than we would normally use on the snake method, and this way you'll get the temperature you want. So it will burn around like the clock, and it'll just generate the amount of heat we need and take it over the time. So now that that's ready, we'll go ahead and check the charcoals, and they look perfect. I'll go ahead and dump them in right here in the starting position. I'm going to do it nice and slow, but I have the tongs right here to reposition them if I need to. So a couple of them missed the mark, so I'll just go ahead and move them over like this. Now I can leave it like this and let it go for a while, or what I can do is I can blast it with a little bit of air. So I've got it burning the way I want it to burn, and we're going to just let it sit there for a second, and while I go get the ribs from inside. So I went ahead and got the ribs out, and I'm going to show these to you really quick. This is a St. Louis pork rib from the local grocery store, and this rack is 3.5 pounds. And since it's St. Louis, it's not going to require a lot of trimming up. That's a pretty symmetrical trimmed piece, which is what I really like about it. Now, before I move on, I want to show you the fire here. You can see that we're starting to get a little bit of smoke here from that block. I could have probably placed the block maybe one row further over. That way we could get a good light on the charcoal. But this is good because we're going to hit smoke right off the bat. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just open this up. I'm going to try to record this and pop it up here so you can see a close-up. One of my friends commented that he'd like to see a few more close-ups on some of the videos, so we're going to do what we can. This is my Victorinox curved boning knife. I like it for a lot of these kind of uses when you're trimming up stuff. Works really well for trimming the fat cap on a brisket. Now you do you. If you want to wash this off, you wash it off. If you don't, then don't. It's been rinsed off, washed off at the processing plant, and I'm not going to, and I rarely ever do with chicken because you can actually spread more bacteria around your kitchen than you're saving yourself. So I'm going to pick this up, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it, starting in the middle, and just remove that. And get it nice and level, just like that. Now then, I'm going to take this around like this, and then I'm going to take right here in the middle and put a butter knife and force the dull side up. Just running it right along the back of the bone and then twisting it so that dull side comes up and trying to get all the way through underneath that silver skin. Then I like to bend it just a little bit. This is the hardest part right here, is getting it to come up without breaking it. Under there, and then work your thumb in. And if you can get the whole thing in one shot, it usually comes up pretty good. Now look at that. Got that side. We got a pretty decent piece. Sometimes the whole thing comes up and sometimes it doesn't. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here. And then you can take a paper towel and grab onto it, and the paper towel will grip onto that silver skin. The last couple pieces are always the most difficult. Then I like to just trim a little bit of the fat. You don't have to overdo it, but we just want to get some of this large clumps of fat off so that way it doesn't get in the way of our seasoning. And then we have to make a decision on the edges like this, because that is going to cook differently than the parts of the bones. So what I normally do is I normally go out here and I normally cut right about here and just remove this one piece off the end. Okay, there we go. Now we'll just go ahead and get this out of our way for a second here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we pat it dry completely. Another little piece here that we're going to remove. Get rid of the fat, but keep any of the meat scraps. You can either use that for something else, or like I'm going to do is you can just throw it on the cooker. Now, I don't do a lot of sugar in my cooking, but today we're going to use sugar on this. I wanted to get a little brown sugar in there. I went ahead and put a small amount in a separate bowl, and I break it up a little bit. Then I'm going to take it and I'm going to rub it in. I'm just trying to spread it around a little bit. I'm not trying to do anything crazy here. So I got that side. Then I'm going to take and lightly coat it with garlic. This is garlic granules. And then our 3-2-1-1s. Always shake it first. With ribs, I like to sprinkle around the perimeter, and then if I need more in the middle, I'll come back, just like that. And then I pat it down to force the seasoning to stick. Then I'll roll it over and repeat. So just so you know, when I'm done with these, I'll take them to the house and wash them before I put them away, because I've cross-contaminated pretty much everything. Now that we're done with that, I'm going to go ahead and remove one glove. And then let's see if we can wipe our fingers. I'm going to go ahead and put this together now. And you can see it is burning, and that's kind of, you're trying to prevent that, but I think reducing the amount of oxygen will shut that down fast. All right, we're going to take a break for a minute, and for two reasons. One reason is we want to let this warm up just a little bit before we put the ribs on, and the other reason is that I want the ribs to tack up before I do the next step that I'm going to show you. So we'll be back in 1 second. For you, it'll be about 5 minutes for me. So first of all, I went ahead and grabbed my favorite accessory, and this is the grill mat, and these things are just a godsend. It prevents things from sticking directly to the grate, and it makes your cleanup so much easier. I throw this in the dishwasher when I'm done, and sometimes I have to scrub it, sometimes I don't. I used it for cheese the last 2 times, and I was just able to throw it directly in the dishwasher, and it was done. Now we'll go ahead and take this off, and we're starting to come up to temperature. We still need a little ways to go, but that's okay. Now, if you see there, you see there's a flat side here. I'm going to match that up with the handle holes because we just don't want to put anything over the handle holes. I went ahead and grabbed 2 of the regular vinyl gloves instead of the nitrile gloves, which I tend to use when I'm trimming or doing any precision work. When I'm just holding stuff, trying to keep my hands clean, this is what I use. Now I'm going to show you this. This is going to barely fit in here, and I want to avoid that. Now, if I were doing it in the oven, I would do a 4-cut. So today, though, because of how I'm going to lay it out, I'm just going to cut it in half. Normally, there's about 13 bones on most racks, so we're going to count and see where we're at. If it's 6, we'll go right down the middle. 12. Yeah, so when I trimmed the edge, I trimmed off the 13th bone. So we're going to go ahead and do that at 6. So I trimmed it, I did an exposed edge, so I'm just going to take that and rub it on the cutting board and get a little bit of seasoning on there. I'll set that in there like that. And that in there like that. Couldn't be any simpler. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and run this. Plus, I'll throw these in there. Don't forget the scraps. Our goal is to run this at about 3 hours for 250 degrees. Now, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, I'm definitely having a hard time with the temperature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put in the thermometer probe. Now, with ribs, it's really hard to monitor on a thin rib the actual temperature of it. So I don't worry too much about that. I'm going to set this in here, and we're going to not touch any of the metal and just set it like that. And then I'm going to stick that wire down there just a little bit. And there we go. I'll set that down here so it's close, but it's not anywhere where the heat can get to it. I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to open this up all the way. I'm going to check the bottom and make sure it's open all the way. And once it comes up to temperature, then I'm going to start adjusting these down. It still has a ways to go to get to temperature. Plus, it's going to take a few minutes to get the reading. So let's go ahead and take a break while that happens. And for you, that'll be 1 second, and I'll let you know how long it is for me. We are at almost 15 minutes, and I'm not quite getting to the temperature that I want. So right now, we're just at 198 degrees, which is not going to be good enough to cook this in the 3 hours that we want. So you could add more charcoal briquettes right across the top to get the temperature to pop up, or you could add some lump charcoal. Now, lump charcoal burns at a higher temperature, so not a lot will go a long way. I picked out 3 pieces that are all in a very smaller size range. So they're not little chunks, but they're nice little sticks. I'm going to go ahead and pop it open here. And we'll get a close-up for you there. So I'll set the first one right in on top here so it gets started right away. And these are hot gloves. And I'm going to put the next one around a little bit further. And then the next one just a little bit further. The idea is for them to add to the fire where it is burning. And once the smoker gets a little bit hotter, it'll share a little bit more of that temperature around the whole unit. All right, there we go. And I'm going to go ahead and keep an eye on that and keep watching it. But I'm pretty sure now that we're going to come up to the temperature, and that target temperature again is 250 degrees. 225 is about your minimum, but that's almost 4-hour cook. So we want to get it up to 250 for a 3-hour cook. So we're going to go ahead and take another break. That'll just be 1 second for you. It has been slightly over 2 hours, and we've been doing really good on the temperature. We are looking at about 258 when I went to check on them a minute ago, and they are ready to turn. So we'll go ahead and pop that open. Set that down here for a second. That. A little bit of pulling on the back. So I like to turn them a little sooner than that to avoid that. Oh, but that looks really good. I really like how that color looks. And I'm going to break off a piece of this where it's the thinnest. And we'll go ahead and put the lid back on. So I wanted you to get a good look at this before I go ahead and eat it. There's a little bit of silver skin on the back. This is a piece that I trimmed off, so I obviously didn't prep that. Not enough seasoning on that little side piece. I probably should have seasoned that a little bit better, but still has a great taste. So we're going to go ahead and go along for another hour. Hopefully we have enough light. If not, I'll go ahead and pop out one of my lights and we'll finish this up. Sometimes I forget that in wintertime you need to start a little bit earlier and just toss your dinner in the oven until it's time to eat. So we will be back in 1 second for you and about an hour for me. So we have come to the end of our cooking process, and it's time to go ahead and cut a piece and take a look at it. Now I went ahead and brought out a small light because we just didn't have enough light out here to proceed. So hopefully it still looks good. And boy, that looks good. Just going to set that down there for now, and I'm going to pull off one of these. Let's get the larger one here. I'm going to hold this and bring this up here so you can get a good look at it. Now I'm going to do something here, and I want to cut a piece off here, but I'm going to do what they call a Hollywood cut. So what I like to do is I like to hold this up and then find the edge of the bone here and run my knife right along the edge of that bone. So it's almost all bone right through there. Now then I'll take the knife on the opposite side and push it against this bone. The idea is that you get a nice wide rib, and you can see that on the close-up here. And I'm also really quick, I'm going to take a picture, so 1 second. So now that we've done the Hollywood cut, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just dig in. I want you to see this, so I'm going to come up here real close. A little bit of color in there. Looks really good. Now you can see this is a normal size St. Louis cut pork rib, and you can see how big of a bite I was able to take out of that because of the Hollywood cut. It makes really good eating. I'm going to take another bite. Now I'm not a big fan of a bunch of barbecue sauce on my meat. I do like a little bit with my pulled pork on my sliders, but generally I like just the dry rub. And today we used a little bit of brown sugar, enough that it would put it out of keto if you were doing keto. So feel free to leave that out, and make sure you don't forget the extra garlic powder in your mixture. But that is awesome, and this is another successful cook on the Cuisinart 18-inch vertical charcoal smoker. I've been very happy with this. This is definitely one of the more budget-friendly options. And the only problem that I have had so far has been the thermometer. And I don't know if that was just something that was an irregularity or if I actually need to do something different. But my probe thermometers have been working great. They work really good in the 200 to 300 degree range, or actually even lower for inside the meat. So use another thermometer to gauge your temperature, and I think you'll be just fine. So if you saw anything you like in this video, of course there'll be affiliate links below. I will get compensated for those, but they won't cost you anything. And I'm, like I said, happy with the smoker, so I could easily recommend this as a budget-friendly starter vertical charcoal smoker that you can get great results out of. Check out my next video for some more stuff on this, and we're also going to be doing a front-loading Big Chief smoker instead of the top-loading one. This seems to be a heavily requested item, so we'll be getting to that in a couple of weeks too. Again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.